What is happening, everybody? Today I want to talk to you about how to get better handheld footage when shooting videos. Now, if you're anything like me, when starting out I never had access to a gimbal or any kind of stabilizing gear, and so what I had to do was get fairly good at shooting handheld. And in this video today I want to share with you a couple of tips and tricks that I picked up along the way. I've decided to come down to one of our local beaches on this beautiful stretch of coastline, and this is where I'm going to give you guys a demonstration of a few of these techniques. Now, I knew there was going to be wind and there was going to be waves, but I was hoping it wouldn't be this bad. I'm going to see if I can find a little section that's a bit more sheltered, and then we'll get right into it. Alright, this over here should work fairly well. We're kind of sheltered from the wind coming in. So the first thing I want to tell you guys is you want to shoot on as wide an angle lens as possible. So if you've got access to a 16mm lens, that is perfect. You see, the wider the lens, the less shake you're going to notice around the edges. And I'll demonstrate this by shooting a couple of handheld shots at 16 and then at 24 and then at 35, and I'm not going to stabilize anything that I shoot throughout this entire clip, and you'll notice how the tighter the focal length, the more movement you can catch it within the frame. Now, I don't have a second camera to use for demonstration purposes, but what I will use is simply my cell phone. A lot of you might actually be shooting on a phone in any case, so this is great for you guys to learn from. Let's for a second just pretend that this was a camera, a mirrorless, a DSLR, whatever camera you might be shooting on with a large lens in the front. Now, the best technique to shoot with is you're going to hold the body grip on the camera. Let's pretend that's a body grip over there, and then you're going to mount the lens underneath your hand. So your hand is going to rather mount underneath the lens. You're going to shoot like this. What you want to do is you don't want to hold the camera away from your body and move around. That's going to introduce a lot of shake, a lot of micro jitters. As you move, you don't really have a stable pivot point. So what you want to do is you want to lock your elbows into your body like this. So you're going to lock your elbows into your body, and then you're going to kind of bend your legs. I'm not sure if you can see my legs. Let me take a couple of steps back here. So what you want to do is you want to bend your legs and you want to create a nice solid base, and then you move around like that. So your body kind of starts acting as a tripod. Now, if you're wanting to move forward or backwards, what you're going to do is you're going to shift your base. You're going to shift your tripod leg. So this can be a tilt in. See, as I'm tilting forward like this. If you're wanting to pan to the left or to the right, or rather tilt to the left or the right, same thing. You're going to move your leg and you're going to shift across like that and back in, and the other way, across and back in. And what you're doing is you're keeping a nice stable base for the camera to move from, and you're not picking up all these little micro jitters that you might have gotten if your legs are shaking or your arms are shaking, because your torso is a nice solid platform to work off of. Now, the same thing applies with the cell phone. You might not be holding it like with a grip like you would with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, but hold your cell phone like you would over here. Make sure it's in landscape orientation if you're going to be shooting video, and do the same thing. Plant your legs, get a nice little bend in the knees like that, and you can slowly move in, and you can move across to the side. We're creating movement like that. Another little tip that I can give you guys is fall into your shot or fall out of your shot. So extend your range a little bit more than what you're comfortable with, and you might buy yourself a second or half a second extra footage, and that could make all the difference. So I'm going to demonstrate again as I fall into a shot. As an example here, I've picked the shot, I've set up, I'm getting my camera movement going, I keep pushing, and then I fall into that shot right at the end there, and that little fall, I might be able to pull a slight amount of footage off of that, and that could be the difference between getting the footage that I need and having missed the shot and not being able to include it in my edit. Shooting at 16mm, I'm gonna fall out of my shot to gain that extra little bit of time in it. Left leg planted out so I can do a bit of a pan across. Try and pivot around your point of focus or around your subject. So if the camera that I'm talking to now was my point of focus, what I would come in and I would lock my elbows into my body like I mentioned before, and I would tilt around using my legs and trying to keep my subject matter in the center of the frame or in that same spot, because what starts happening is you'll be more aware of the subject, your eyes will be locked in, and you'll be less inclined to look at the movement happening around the edges of the frame, and that's typically where the movement becomes evident. So if you've got your subject staying in the same spot in the frame, regardless of how much movement there is along the perimeter, the shot looks a lot smoother because your subject isn't bouncing around and moving a lot. One final thing that I haven't mentioned is if you're wanting to make it appear that there's less jitter or shake or more stable handheld shots, what you can do is you can shoot in a higher frame rate and then create slow motion clips in post. Now this is going to help you reduce those tiny little jitters that you might pick up at 24 frames or 30 frames a second by slowing your footage down. When shooting 60 or 120 frames a second, whatever your frame rate is, you want to make sure that your shutter speed is double that, so you get a nice smooth motion blur, and that when you cut it down into slow motion, it doesn't have that choppy looking effect. So if you're shooting at 60 frames a second, you should have your shutter speed at about 100 or 120. And now if you're shooting at 120 frames a second, you want your shutter speed to be at 240 or 250, whatever your camera allows. There you have it. I hope these little tips have helped improve your filmmaking abilities. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel, as I'll continue to roll out content that'll help improve your ability to make better quality films. That's all there is from me today. I'll catch you guys in the next video.